Have you ever heard of transparent wood? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? The idea is to get a material that's as clear as glass but has the strength and durability of wood. The goal sounds simple enough, but getting there, well, that's a whole other story.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Can you actually take something as ordinary and opaque as wood and turn it into something you can see right through, without it becoming weak and brittle? This one question is the start of an incredible journey of, well, a whole lot of trial and error.
Now, this wasn't the first crack at this. There was an attempt years ago, and while the pieces looked okay at first, they just didn't hold up. After only a few months, they were a total mess, yellow, cracked, and all warped out of shape. And that failure is really important because it sets the stakes so much higher for trying again with a totally new approach.
So it was time for a complete do-over. The new inspiration actually came from a scientific paper from 2016. It laid out a whole new method that, hopefully, could dodge all those old problems, the yellowing, the cracking, the whole shebang.
First things first, the wood itself. The choice this time was a 3.2 millimeter thick piece of balsa wood. And what's interesting is that this is actually thicker than what most of the scientific literature suggests. The logic was, hey, if we start with something a bit more substantial, maybe it won't just disintegrate during all the chemical steps we're about to put it through.
All right, so now for the first major chemical step. We've got to strip out the stuff that gives wood its color and a lot of its structure. This is a process called delignification. And believe me, this is where the real transformation begins. So, what are we getting rid of? It's a compound called lignin. The easiest way to think about it is as the natural glue that holds all the wood fibers together. It's also what gives wood its brownish color. So, to make the wood clear, you have to get rid of the lignin, which is about a quarter of the wood's entire mass. What you're left with is basically a white, porous skeleton.
And the new way of doing this was so much better. Instead of some complex two-step process, this was just one step. You just dunk the wood in a sodium chloride solution, heat it up for about 7 hours, and that's it. It dissolves the lignin and bleaches the wood all at once. Then you just wash it out and you're good to go. Way more streamlined.
Okay, so once the lignin is gone, the wood is like a sponge. It's white, it's full of tiny holes, and it's ready to be filled with something clear. And let me tell you, the choice of what you fill it with, that is absolutely everything. This one decision determines whether you get a beautiful, clear final product or just another yellowed, cracked failure.
See, here's the fatal flaw with the old method. It used epoxy resin. And if you want to use this stuff for, say, a window, epoxy has a huge problem. It turns yellow when it's exposed to sunlight. The big idea this time was to switch to something called methyl-methylacrylate, or MMA. It's great because it only hardens with heat, so you have way more control. Plus, when it hardens, it becomes acrylic, plexiglass, which doesn't have that nasty yellowing problem.
So on paper, this all sounded perfect. New wood, new chemical process, new plastic filler. What could go wrong? Well, as it turns out, a lot. What happened next was just this long, frustrating series of failures, where every single attempt taught a new and very hard lesson. I mean, the very first try was just bizarre. The wood was infused with the liquid MMA, baked for hours, and it came out looking exactly the same. Nothing happened. It was like the MMA just decided to evaporate. Poof! Vanished in the oven, leaving the wood totally empty. A complete failure.
And that was only the beginning. It was just one problem after another. The acrylic would literally weld itself to the glass mold. You'd get these huge air bubbles trapped right in the middle. One piece would look absolutely perfect, and then it would just spontaneously crack while it was cooling down. It was just an absolute cascade of failures.
And then, after all that frustration, there was a breakthrough, a real aha moment. And it all came down to one number, 21%. Turns out, as a mamma hardens into a solid, it shrinks. It can lose up to 21% of its volume. Those little wood spacers being used in the mold, they were stopping the top piece of glass from pressing down as the plastic shrank, creating a gap and ruining everything. That was the culprit.
This quote really just says it all. You can just feel the frustration, can't you? Imagine weeks of work, constant problems, trying to nail a process where every tiny detail matters. It was a serious test of patience, right before things finally started to click.
But here's the thing about failing that many times. You learn something new with every mistake. And eventually, all those hard-earned lessons came together into one single, refined process. A winning formula that actually had a real shot at working. And this was it, the secret sauce.
It was a whole checklist of tweaks, each one learned the hard way. Using slightly thinner wood, 4 coats of mold release, a much stronger vacuum, but the real game changers, getting rid of those pesky wood spacers completely and putting a super heavy 40-pound tungsten cube on top. That weight forced everything together as the plastic shrank.
Now, the piece that came out of the oven was a success, but it wasn't beautiful. Yet. It was hazy, kind of rough. The final transformation, the real magic, happened with sanding and polishing. Hours of careful, multi-stage wet sanding took it from a cloudy block of plastic to something just stunningly clear, letting you see the beautiful wood grain trapped inside. And there you have it, the final result. I mean, just look at that. It's a material that really is the best of both worlds. You got the crystal clarity of glass, but with that warm, natural beauty of wood grain. What an incredible end to such a tough project.
So when you step back, this whole thing is bigger than just making see-through wood. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can take a material as common as wood and completely transform it, what other everyday things are just sitting around waiting to be reimagined with some wild new properties? It's a pretty cool thought to leave you with.